over the dark night. She reached up to the sky of stars and caught the red-hot light of the North Star. She opened the earth, walking with blood-soaked feet. She challenged the whip, the gun, the knife.
Well, welcome back. Good afternoon. And, just when you thought the politics could not get any crazier or messier, things get crazier and messier. What in the world is going on? Let's connect some dots and find out.
Connecting the Dots with Dr. Wilmer Leon, where the analysis of politics, culture, and history converge.
Welcome to the Connecting the Dots podcast with Dr. Wilmer Leon, and I am Wilmer Leon. Here's the point. We have a tendency to view current events as though they occur in a vacuum, failing to understand the broader historical context in which most events take place. During each episode, my guests and I have probing, provocative, and in-depth discussions that connect the dots between these events and the broader historic context in which they occur, thus enabling you to better understand and analyze the events that are impacting the global village in which we live. Before we get to my guests, let's take a quick look at some of the top headlines that are in the paper today. Folks, is the bromance over? NBC News reports Trump is not interested in a makeup call with Elon Musk. Their feud, which, if the reporting is correct, and that's really questionable, started over the Republican so-called Big Beautiful Bill, the domestic policy bill that incorporates much of Trump's agenda. Republicans are now worried about the potential collateral damage ahead of next year's midterms. Today, Trump called Elon Musk the man who has lost his mind and told ABC News that he's not particularly interested in talking with Musk about their feud. Does this sound familiar? Because Trump said something very similar about another powerful person just a little while ago. I think it was this past May 25th, when Trump stated, quote, "I've always had a very good relationship with Vladimir Putin of Russia, but something has happened to him. He's gone absolutely crazy." Well, why do you think Trump's so-called friends suddenly lose their minds? Trump announces travel ban on 12 countries and partial restrictions for 7 others. According to the Washington Post, Trump framed the new restrictions, which primarily target African and Asian countries, as necessary to fortify national security and combat terrorism. In a return of one of the most controversial policies of his first term, Trump signed a proclamation Wednesday banning nationals from a dozen countries, including Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen from entering the U.S. Is there really a method to this madness, or is this just an extension of the self-imposed trade war? Newsweek reports Trump suffers major legal setback in Harvard fight. Yesterday, a U.S. district judge, Allison Burroughs, issued a 2-page issued an order instructing the Department of Homeland Security, and the State Department to disregard a proclamation issued by the Trump administration the previous day banning international students at Harvard from entering the U.S. for 6 months. She also extended the temporary restraining order that she put on the Trump administration's previous attempt to end Harvard's enrollment of international students through June 20th. Also, the Boston-based judge ruled that the Trump directive would cause immediate and irreparable injury before the courts could fully review the policy. On the international front, after the Ukraine struck Crimea's Kerch Bridge a few days ago, Russia hits 7 Ukrainian military industrial sites in retaliation for terror attacks. The Russian Defense Ministry said earlier today, quote, "Last night, in response to the terrorist actions of the Kiev regime, the armed forces of the Russian Federation carried out a massive strike with long-range air, sea, and ground-based high-precision weapons, as well as with strike UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, against design bureaus, enterprises producing and repairing weapons and military hardware of Ukraine, attack drone assembly workshops, fighting training centers, and AFU weapons and military hardware depots." Folks, if the military geniuses in the Trump administration truly believe in the escalate in order to de-escalate theory of confrontation or conflict, they're about to find out the fatal flaws in their logic. And also, as an additional point to this, I've been told that the footage that's being shown in the West about the Russian military striking civilian apartment complexes, that's just file footage. That does not reflect the targets that were actually struck. So with that, we go from the ridiculous to the sublime. 5 Proud Boys leaders sue the Justice Department over the January 6th prosecutions. Federal civil lawsuit seeking $100 million for the men convicted in the Capitol attack, then pardoned by President Trump. 5 Proud Boy leaders, 4 of whom were found guilty of engaging in a seditious conspiracy to keep President Trump in power on January 6th, want the government to pay them $100 million in restitution over claims their constitutional rights were violated. This is according to a federal lawsuit that was filed today in Florida. So, all right. On today's episode, the issue before us is are we watching the end of the bromance? Today, Trump called Elon Musk the man who has lost his mind and told ABC News he's not particularly interested in talking to him about their feud. My guest is an independent journalist and podcaster. Thank you for coming back to the show, my brother Niko House. How you doing, man?
I was attacked this past weekend, so if my voice sounds a little bit weird, I apologize. But yeah, I'm glad to be back.
Welcome back. Glad to have you back. Man, I thought you were just putting the smooth and sexy on folks.
Nah, man. Nah, it's a smooth and inflamed. It's okay. I'm pretty sure my baby passed because I took him to the park, and I think I had an allergic reaction to one. I'm allergic to crabgrass. So they think it was like part of the crabgrass family. And look at me being a good dad, let him sleep with me, and I woke up not breathing. So yeah,
well, I'm glad you woke up.
Right, exactly.
So Trump called Elon Musk the man who's lost his mind. And this thing has seriously escalated. And you made the point on your show that Musk accidentally admitted that Doge was a scam. Niko House.
Yeah. So I did. And also I made the point while we were having a conversation on your show that these two egos will not be able to coexist. I said that very specifically, and people thought that I was just being sensationalist, and I'm like, no, we're talking about a man who paid his way into this administration via $200 million, and of course believes that he is owed a certain amount of gratitude. He even said that Trump is ungrateful. That's literally what he said just today. So, and yeah, he did and is admitting, whether directly or indirectly, that Doge was and always has been a scam, and he has been nothing but a mere puppet of the Trump administration and even probably the Republicans overall. Because so a lot of people probably don't know that there is an expiration date for special government employees. And because Elon did not get confirmed by the Senate or Congress, he didn't go through those hearings that everybody else would be subject to. He would be considered a special employee. However, people don't know that it can be extended. And there was a conscious decision by somebody that was made to not extend it. A lot of people were under the impression that it was Elon and Trump's mutual decision for them to part ways so Elon could focus on his business. I knew from the jump, nope, they're kicking him out. I've been reporting for a while that they were going to kick him out. And lo and behold, he is kicked out. And my question to him would be, if this bill was such a big problem, if Doge was really empowered in the way that Elon and Trump have been trying to pretend Doge has been empowered, then why would you leave as the head of that particular department, specifically of efficiency of government, right when the worst bill possible, at least the worst bill possible up to this point, is about to pass? It's because you never really did have any power, and they were never going to let you, quote unquote, make the government more efficient, at least not in any way that would benefit the working class. And I think to some degree, Elon realized that, and he's kind of being served up on a silver platter, because who's going to take the brunt of the bruises when everybody realizes just how bad this bill is? And I want to be clear, we all knew, because you've reported on this, I reported on this. Trump bragged about exactly what this bill does before he got elected. He's always been talking about doing this. But Elon said, oh no, I'm going to be able to make the government more efficient. And Trump let him believe that until it was time to, as we say in Brazil, deixa pra lá. He put him over there to the side, said, go to your little corner, you're done. Appreciate the votes. Thanks for the money. Peace out.
You put this in the context of egos, which is very, very accurate. I think there's another element of this that always let us know that this was a formula for disaster. And that is we know Trump is nothing more than a transactional individual.
Mm-hmm.
It is very difficult, if not impossible, for transactional individuals to develop lasting friendships, because the basis of the relationship has to do with the nature of the transaction itself. Mm-hmm. And when the transaction goes away, when there's no longer any need for the transaction, the relationship follows the same course.
Yeah.
So this thing was on a path of dissolution from the moment it started. Now, before I get to the second part, your thoughts on that?
So I'm actually the type of person that believes that almost every human being, especially in the US, is like transactional in nature, like whether it's usually on a smaller scale. But when we're talking about the egos of somebody like Trump or Elon, everything they do is transactional. You don't make that amount of money and have that type of empire unless you are operating almost exclusively, even in your personal life, on a transactional basis, and usually a monetary one. So with Trump specifically, the transactional nature of how he goes about his business is what cuts off a lot of his relationships, like right now what's happening with Elon, but it's also what puts him in situations like right now with his relationship with Peter Thiel. It's all of a sudden mended, right? He's giving all this money and power to Palantir, and people instantly forgot Peter Thiel and Trump did not get along. JD Vance and Trump did not get along. But because Trump operates on a purely transactional basis, he brought JD Vance on as VP after JD Vance spent a good amount of his term as a congressperson attacking Trump, and allowed JD Vance a relationship with Peter Thiel to influence the decision that ultimately led to Palantir having access to almost all of our data. That is how transactional Trump's relationships have been. It can end a relationship, but his enemies who stand to gain from him, at least in this moment, also realize it can help them gain something from that relationship and that nature of Trump.
Cam 35 millimeter says Elon was used for the votes, but Elon's ego wouldn't allow him to see that. Grifters don't have friends. You're absolutely right, Cam. Grifters don't have friends. They have targets. They have victims, but they don't have. Oh, that's a beautiful bear. But they don't have. But they don't have friends.
I think it was obvious. Like I've always talked about this. This man is like crying out for attention on X. He owns the platform and is constantly looking for confirmation and validation from people on the. Yeah, like, boy, it's like he got daddy issues. It's like his dad did not give him enough attention, so he's seeking it from everybody else on a platform that he owns. Like, of course, everybody gonna kiss your ass when their paycheck literally depends on it. They get boosted by you, they make more money, right? Like, but that's who Elon Musk is. Elon doesn't have friends, and I feel like this was another example of that. And I believe that he thought that he and Trump were actually friends, and that Trump actually respected his political acumen that he actually doesn't have. So.
You mentioned JD Vance didn't like Trump. I don't know where you get that from, because I mean JD only compared Trump to Hitler. So why would you say that JD Vance didn't like Donald Trump?
But I remember whenever they announced the VP and everybody said, "What?"
Oh, look. I was in the arena in Milwaukee when that announcement was made.
How'd that go down?
I was, oh man, there was a collective. What the? In fact, I had a guy. There was a guy sitting next to me, an older white guy. You know, the stereotypical Republican-looking kind of person, and he turned to me and he said, "Excuse me, but can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." He said, "What the hell is this?"
You're like, "I don't know. I'm trying to make sense of it. Maybe you know."
but he and I wound up having about a 45-minute conversation about what he thought this really reflected, and we had a great in-depth conversation.
Yeah.
It's
funny that you say that, because
what the F? Go ahead.
What the F bomb dropped, basically. What the FVP. Right. First of all, I would like to say too, it's interesting. Like, even at Politicon, so when somebody just has a random question because they're trying to understand the decision that the Democrats made, and they find out that I'm not a Democrat, but I'm a leftist, I'll end up having like these hour-long conversations with a Republican, and they're usually actually very productive conversations. Right. I can't actually say the same for Democrats. I can actually say pretty confidently my conversations with Democrats go south almost immediately, and it's because when they ask a question, they're actually not trying to get an answer or be productive. They're just trying to understand why I don't think like them. That's it.
They're seeking, and in many instances, they're seeking validation.
Exactly. Like, I can sit on my pedestal, right? Because I'm on the right side of this. No, well, not really. What? How could you possibly say something like that?
Right.
But in regards to this situation, it's crazy how I've seen people split down the middle on this issue between Elon and Trump. I saw Ian Miles Trump, for example, basically take Elon's side, which was weird. And it said that Trump should be impeached, and every Republican that voted for the bill should be impeached, and that JD Vance should be the president, which is wild, because I'm thinking to myself, bro, JD Vance is a globalist and Peter Thiel is the globalist. Like, Jesus Christ, he is like the globalist. But now it's like a lot of people were fearful of this very moment where people would flip on Trump and actually get behind JD Vance. And a lot of people feel like that's why the Republican Party got behind JD Vance, because he was like a cooler, more calm and collected version of Donald Trump in a lot of ways. At least that's what they believe. But then you have the other side where people are. I literally saw a tweet from Cat Turd that said, "I'm tired of people switching on Trump. They don't care what he did. They don't care what he does. Are you loyal to Trump or not? And I'm like, bro, that sounds kind of like a cult or a mental disorder or like a healthy mixture of both, or unhealthy mixture rather. Because like, and then that tweet got like 35,000 or 50,000 likes. I'm like, oh man, we're cooked. The United States has a problem because it's the conversation isn't even about the bill anymore, or the fact that Trump's name allegedly is on this list, which I think a lot of people already knew. But like, you're the president, and Elon is saying we can't know what's the full contents of this list because of you, right? That's not the conversation we're having right now. It's, oh, look at Elon and Trump going blow for blow, which is funny, cool, hilarious. But we're not going to talk about this. Like, Trump and the Republicans are trying to screw the American people. Elon, Trump revealed something we talked about too. Everybody keeps forgetting how much money Elon government efficiency ass is getting from the government. Billions before this bill even got dropped. And Trump revealed that. And no one wants to discuss that quid pro quo nature of transactional, once again, of that relationship. Or the fact that we're sitting right here, Trump, Elon going back and forth, Republicans passing this bill, and Democrats ain't saying a damn thing. Nothing, Wilmer, nothing. They letting it pass, letting it slide. I haven't gotten inkling of inclination from anybody that the Democrats are going to kill this. I haven't really heard any news about this. Like, no, we're never going to let this pass. Like the fight, rah thing we usually get from them in situations and moments like this. I haven't heard anything. I've heard more about the mayoral election in New York than I've heard about Democrats fighting against this bill. So it's like, I feel like there's a lot of, even though the content of what they're arguing about is actually very important, the overall argument itself is distracting everybody.
The Democrats seem to have made a decision a while ago to stand back and watch the implosion. They think that is a winning strategy, which to me is really no more than a different type of rationalization that they've been using for quite a while, which is don't say anything. Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, was in South Carolina, I think it was South Carolina, a couple days ago, gave this apparently this very major speech in South Carolina and didn't say anything, didn't offer anything. He talked about the damage that passing the big, beautiful bill could cause, but did not say, in response to what the Republicans are offering, here's what I think should be done. Here's what the Democratic Party is offering. Did not put anything substantive on the table. And I'm trying to remember who it was that came out and said the former Clinton advisor that's down, went to LSU, that's down in Texas, from Louisiana.
I can't remember. I know exactly what you're talking about. The strategist, the famous, right. I can't remember.
Yeah. He's the one that said we should just sit back and watch them implode. No, you are being given a great opportunity to explain to the American people what is wrong with this approach. And they are offering James Carville. Thank you, Cam. Thank you, Cam 35 millimeter. James Carville has sat back and said, we don't need to say anything. We just need to sit back and no, this is the time for you to step forward and highlight and demonstrate not only how reckless and feckless these people are, but what are you offering that is going to improve the lives of the poor, the middle, and working classes in America? And they can't do it because they ain't got nothing.
Yep. I mean, to obviously a far lesser degree, because I don't want to compare genocide to taxes, but like when I'm saying to a lesser degree, it's like the same as how they handle Gaza. This is a slam dunk. They threw you at alley-oop and you are Wilt Chamberlain. Just put the damn ball in the basket. That's all you have to do. Score 100 points. They are 5'8". They're giving you the W. And you're like, but what if we tie instead? Like, what? Like, do you think that'll help us make the playoffs? No, you're going to not make the playoffs. You're literally going to not make the playoffs. But like, have you done the math to make sure? Yes. Mathematically, you are out of the playoffs if you tie and do not win. Just put the ball in the basket. You're right there. Man, I think we're just going to tie. Playoffs seem like too much work. I'm not really trying to play out an extra season. That's basically how it's going right now, because sitting back in a situation like this and allowing this bill to pass without even a complaint. So it's one thing if you're not going to even offer like a counter bill. You're not going to offer other policies, a better tax policy. No, you're not even going to complain about it. Pretend like you give a damn about the working class people. While this man is literally bragging, yeah, we about to get these rich people some money. Yup. And the military industrial complex that we said, even though we're supposedly the anti-war administration, that's what Trump pitched himself as being. We're going to give more money, actually, to the military industrial complex. Now, we have to remember, a large reason why a lot of these Democrats are quiet is because of what? Because they get paid by the same individuals. Mm-hmm. They get paid by the same lobbyists. And so these lobbyists are sitting in the cut. Like, I wish I would say something. I wish I would pick right now to sit on your high horse when we're about to get all this money to the military industrial complex, all this money to Palantir. Because even this Palantir situation is bizarre, right? Because J.D. Vance, a Republican, brought Peter Thiel into the fold to mend his relationship with Trump, which it seemingly was exclusively for this purpose. So it's like, okay, this is this is your chance, guys. You believe it's right to surveil on immigrants because that's what this tech is going to be used for, and it's already being used for that in some individual states. So they're going to expand that. This is your chance, guys. Stand up for the people you're asking to vote for you. Just pretend. Nope, can't even do that. That is too much work, Wilmer. That's why it's like, I always say, the Republicans love it. They just, like, the Republicans know, all we got to do is wait out a Democrat, because the Democrats going to make a bunch of promises, and they're going to break them. And people going to vote for Republicans. And we going to get everything we want. Because Democrats don't fight anything. They literally are the reason Republicans get everything they want. And then the Democrat voters, liberals rather, turn around and blame us. Well, y'all voted for him. Well, no, or y'all didn't vote for us. Well, yeah, but that's y'all fault, right? No. Yeah, it is. Because remember, y'all promised all that stuff and then like screwed us? Well, yeah, but Trump is worse. Okay, well, no, that's the point. This is literally happening because of y'all. And that's what they don't realize. This is happening because Democrats are feckless. Because they don't care. Hell, I would argue that some of this is happening because they want it to happen because they're rich.
Oh, no question. Well, they're getting paid the same amounts by the same benefactors. One of the big and this is also, I think, very important for people to understand. Not only are they being paid by the same lobbying groups, they're being handled. People need to understand, it's not a matter of they're on the first of every month going to their bank account and seeing that the check has been deposited. They are physically being handled. There are handlers assigned to them. And AIPAC does this better than anybody.
Massey explained it. Thomas Massey explained it in detail.
There are handlers that tap them and say, hey, you know what the script is, right? Let me give you, here's today's script. Let's rehearse it. Please follow this. Do not deviate. Now, to that point, and you mentioned the New York mayor's race. AOC has endorsed Zohran Mamdani, a Muslim, self-defined democratic socialist to run. Does that say anything to you? And before you answer that question, I've got to thank Willie Hicks, who has become a new member of the Connecting the
Big
Dots
Willie.
Club. And you got it right. Willie Hicks, my brother, thank you so much for becoming a new member. So AOC has now endorsed Zohran Mamdani to as her choice to be the next mayor of New York. What does that say to you?
It says that she at least is politically intelligent enough to know that a woman endorsing a man committed of sexual assault probably wouldn't be a good look for her 2028 campaign that we all know is coming. You don't want to have to look back and answer that question. Why did you endorse Andrew Cuomo? And also, she doesn't want to have to answer a question during the primary. Why did you endorse Andrew Cuomo after he started a new party and admitted that the only reason he started the new party is so that he has a guaranteed way to be on the general election ballot? Because, yeah, we know that he's a power broker within the party and that other power brokers at this moment, hypocritically so, haven't mentioned a word about that. They haven't mentioned that he's helping the GOP like they've accused other candidates of doing in the past. But they will bring it up if AOC runs for the presidential race in 2028, runs in the primary and says, well, why did you endorse Cuomo? And he's trying to split the ballot, and because of him, a Republican won, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. She don't want to deal with that. So it's better to endorse somebody who's Muslim, try to make up for the fact that she's getting killed for everything she said and hasn't said regarding Gaza and the genocide that's happening there. Mm-hmm. And endorse somebody who has absolutely no chance of disrupting things in the party. I'm just being honest about that. Like, he's not going to win. It's probably, unfortunately, I think it's going to be Cuomo who wins. I mean, he's going to be, he's already leading 30% in the primary. If he doesn't win that primary, it's going to be close if he loses that primary, right? So he's probably going to win if he gets into the general. And he is going to get into the general because of the independent party. So he's probably going to win. So AOC actually is doing something that I can't believe. I'm saying she's actually being calculating. I can't believe it, but she's actually being calculating, and it's probably going to pay off for her a little bit in the future. Not like in a grandiose way, but it's not going to hurt her.
And I'm glad that you framed it that way, because I see a lot of that same logic and calculus explaining why she's been backing Bernie, and she's been standing next to Bernie on the anti-oligarch tour, and I was trying to figure out, is she becoming the next sheep herder for the Democrats the way Bernie has been the sheep herder for the Democrats?
Oh, she absolutely is.
Or the bell cow, however you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with sheep herding is that you actually have to herd the sheep.
Right.
When y'all get your asses whooped. Yeah, right, exactly. That's the problem. Like, you ain't got no sheep, cuz. And they might do this, if you look at the demographics of those rallies, it's all the Democrat liberals who literally hated them 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Right. She is becoming the new sheep herder for the party. I think she sees that opportunity. I think Bernie also needs that young energy for him to keep maintaining this grift of his. And so they're using each other. I know, like, I remember the way Bernie used to treat AOC. And he treated her like a little girl who was wide-eyed and bright-eyed, but actually had no idea what she was doing, and was really kind of a nuisance to some degree, trying to siphon energy from his movement. That's how he treated her. And I'm just being honest, right? Bernie didn't endorse her when she first came out to run. Bernie was not standing next to her all the time. I'm being honest, because I was there for the whole thing. So it was only whenever they realized, okay, now we both have the star power, that we can mutually benefit from being seen together, from using each other's movements, from fundraising together, that, okay, cool, now we can go on this tour together. But notice who's not on the tour with them. Notice Ilhan Omar is not on this tour with them. Notice Rashida Tlaib is not on this tour. Cori Bush is not on this tour with them. All the people that kind of made AOC and bolstered Bernie to keep him afloat as he continued to sell us down the river, none of them are with them, because this is about AOC. And when AOC was asked, is she going to run for president? She says, oh, we can't tell the future, but, we'll see if there's a Democrat that I consider to be progressive enough, and then I'll make my decision, which is she's going to run, right? I feel like everybody and their mama knew that this was coming since her very first interview. It's just that at that point, we had higher hopes for her, But now it's even worse because, like, girl, you can't even win a committee seat like a senior committee seat you can't win within your own party. Your own party don't like you, right? We don't like you anymore. And yeah, she might be raising money. She's set records for raising money. But like, you're just raising money from wealthier people. Like, and she has more individual. Yeah, more people know who you are. But like, nobody is scrutinizing you yet. There is a difference whenever people know, and you've done this for so long. I've done this long enough to know it hits a little bit different whenever people you got to start going against those campaign ads, and people start pulling up those receipts, and it gets a lot easier to pull up receipts now that AI's in the picture. You see, I posted a receipt of what AOC said a couple of days after October 7th when she's talking about Israel's right to defend itself when we all knew what time it was. Right? Like everybody keeps talking about that's a 2-year-old video. No, nobody cares. Israel does not have a right to my tax dollars. I don't give a damn. It was an apartheid before October 7th and a genocide. It was just a genocide light. It's a worse genocide and a worse apartheid post October 7th.
And you know what? Because it's collective punishment.
Exactly. And siege warfare, which is also a war crime. So what did you respond with when you had the loudest microphones of all microphones during the election, during the DNC convention? They are doing everything in their power to stop this genocide. They're working tirelessly night and day. No, they weren't. That's a lie. Mm-hmm. But you said it because it was going to get you more political favor within the party. And then you let them blackball a Palestinian speaker. Okay, we're not going to forget that. That it's over. Like, people know, and she might be raising money right now, but a lot of those people don't even know what she said or done. They just know what they see on Facebook, the positive things they see on her about her on Facebook or TikTok in the moment, because they might be new to the conversation because of how pissed off they are or were about how the Biden situation was handled, about Trump being allowed to be president, about the Democratic Party in general, and the fact that and so they're gravitating towards the fact that she's willing to at least mildly criticize the party. But eventually the receipts will come out, and they'll come out at the most inopportune times, because that's usually how this stuff works.
Mm-hmm. A couple of things going back to the New York race. Mamdani is highlighting the number, because when you mentioned donations, this came to mind. He's highlighting the number of donations that he's getting compared to the amount of, he's talking about the average donation individual. Is $52.17, something small.
That's actually kind of high.
I know. I just pulled that number.
Okay.
It was something. It was something. It might have been in the 30s. I honestly don't remember. But he was saying I'm getting small donations from a lot of people instead of getting large donations from a small group of elite. That's the first thing. The other thing that I find interesting, he's doing this, and because I live in Maryland in the DMV, I'm listening to or hearing the campaign ads from Maryland and Virginia, and the Democrats are making this about Trump. For example, and so what they're saying is the guy in Maryland that's running for Attorney General, he in his ad says, I'm challenging Donald Trump. The brother in Virginia that is running for, I can't remember what he's running for. He was a former football player. His ad says, MAGA has to come through me. I'm protecting you against Donald Trump and MAGA. I have no idea who he's running against. I mean, I don't know the name. I don't know.
That's kind of smart, actually.
Of his opponent, because they're making it about Trump, not about the individual that is challenging them for the positions they're running for. Your thought?
I feel like that's silly. You know why? At this very moment, I would be calling out the Democrats specifically. I'm like, hey man, y'all want somebody that's actually going to work for y'all? Like, if y'all really want to challenge Donald Trump, because if that is your ultimate goal, and the Republicans, maybe I should put somebody in Congress who's actually going to try to win elections by passing.
Oh no, these aren't congressional races. These are state races. That's my point.
That's even worse. That's
my point. These aren't U.S. congressional races. These are state races for state attorney general, state assistant attorney general.
I mean, what is he saying? Like they're gonna? So basically, I guess what it sounds like they're trying to imply, without directly saying, because it would probably involve something to do with Israel, is that like any executive order that would be passed by Trump would have to go through them, or they would try to appeal to a judge to challenge. Like, but that doesn't really make any sense because, like a state attorney general doesn't have any power.
They are running state races, and again, this is what
that doesn't really make any sense.
Mamdani is saying in the New York mayor's race is, I'm going to fight Trump as the mayor of New York.
How? I mean, I'm genuinely curious. Like, what exactly?
That's just how they're framing the argument.
That's the first thing I would ask as a voter is like, okay, what do you mean? Because like maybe I'm a voter who doesn't like Trump. I don't like Trump. Okay, so like, what are you going to do differently, or how substantively are you going to challenge him? Because if you're going to say something, I'm going to be different than Eric Adams, who allowed college students to get the shit beat out of them by police. Because and the president allowed it, and his Justice Department allowed it. No, we're not allowing none of that here in my city. Now we're having a different conversation.
Thank you. That's not how they're framing it. I'm watching these ads, and I'm saying to myself, there's a link in the argument that you're missing. Tell me who you're running against. Tell me
how they're pushing Trump's policies.
There you go. But that's not how. And again, I'm going to put this in the Democrats category because I'm seeing it in Virginia. I'm seeing the same logic in Maryland, and I'm seeing the same logic in New York with Mamdani, because I heard him last night on one of the MSNBC programs, and this is exactly what he was saying, was I, as mayor of New York, am the only one that's going to sit here and tell you now that I'm going to fight Donald Trump. And I'm trying to figure out, well, as the mayor of New York, you're in the wrong ring.
Yeah,
you're in the wrong ring. You're not in the federal ring. You're in the state. In fact, you're not even in the state ring. You're in the city ring. We understand.
Now, it's funny. I was just talking to my wife about this. I was listening to commercials. So recently, I've been because I've been studying more like political lingo in Portuguese. Okay. I'm like starting to hear these commercials, and like they're catching my ear when I hear something like ridiculous said. I'm like, hold on. Did this dude just do a whole commercial and didn't say a damn thing? Like, she's like, oh yeah, that's basically how all the, because before she said it was very much like the US where everybody would make a bunch of false promises and then they would lose because they don't get anything done. Right. But then I heard this Republican, for example, just literally going on like Lula and just talk about how bad everything is. And I'm like, well, I mean, the things that he actually said, I agree with for the most part, as far as the criticisms. And I'm like, okay, so like, what are you about to do differently? And so that's why you should vote Republican and vote for me. Oh, okay. So like, you're not the president. Like, you're not even, I'm talking about either, because I mean, Brazil has like low level local elections, right? I'm talking about neighborhood type stuff. It's like people from like the neighborhood talk about I'm gonna challenge Lula. Oh, what are you talking about? Like,
in the neighborhood, I'm gonna stand on the corner on a soapbox and scream his name.
Yeah, which is basically what a lot of people do. It, whether it be Bolsonaro or Lula, that's all a lot of these politicians do. And they don't talk, and they avoid, for example, discussing the real issues, which in Brazil's case would be the amount of insane overreach and power the judicial system has here. Like Alexander Moraes just be doing whatever the hell he wants to, but everybody's so terrified of him that no one challenges him. Because literally, he will put your ass in jail without charges. And they can do that to some degree. Mm-hmm. So like, but it was like, well, I'm like, damn, I thought our politics was bad and empty and vapid. And y'all's politics, it seems just as bad. She was like, yeah, basically. I will say like, but here also, on a real level, here's how simple people are when you actually are giving people what they want. The mayor of Rio, you know what that man promised when he ran the first time? I'm gonna put air conditionings on these omnibus, the buses, public transportation. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna make them better because I know the majority of y'all are taking the bus to and from work. Y'all deserve to ride in dignity and with air conditioning because we live in Rio and it is hot as hell. You know what he did? He put air conditioning on all the buses. When I tell you he busted the other candidate's ass, Wilmer, he all he said was, remember I told you about that AC?
Well,
one. And you know what he ran on? What he's running on right now? That ain't, you know he run on right. I'm gonna put more buses out there with more AC. Everybody like, hey man, look, he ain't giving us everything, but he giving us what we want.
You improved the quality of my life in a very simple way, but in a very, I'm not sweating out my suit by the time I get to work because I'm riding on an air-conditioned bus.
My baby isn't sweating. My 3-month-old, my 4-month-old isn't sweating on the way back from daycare. Right? Isn't suffering. Like it seems really small and minuscule, but it's a big deal. And whether or not you keep that promise, people are going to remember something like that. But it also shows people are not complicated, bro. We are not asking for you to save the world in a day. We're just asking you to make improvements and keep the promises you make along the way. That's all we're asking.
Now, that takes us back to the point about these commercials, because we're being bombarded, at least in DC, with commercials by conservative PACs that are talking about all of these things that Donald Trump is doing. They're telling us about the big, beautiful tax bill has to pass so that the average person can keep more money in their pocket. The Democrats are not out here exposing the fallacy of the lie of trickle-down economics. George
so easy.
H.W. Bush called it voodoo economics when Ronald Reagan tried to pass it.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I had no idea. I mean, that's the best description of it.
Have you ever heard the term voodoo economics?
No, but that's hilarious and accurate. And actually, voodoo would probably be more reliable than trickle down economics.
In the I guess that was 79 election, in the primary, when Ronald Reagan was running against George H.W. Bush, Ronald Reagan talked about this tremendous tax cut that he was going to implement, and how, as a result of cutting the taxes on the wealthy, that money would, his words, trickle down and stimulate the economy.
Mm-hmm.
George H.W. said, that will never work. That's voodoo economics. Trickle down economics is voodoo economics.
You know what's wild about that? First of all, I can't believe Bush actually was correct. That's
right.
Like, first of all, there's that. But also, I can't believe that people are like, man, I can't believe things will ultimately will trickle down. I don't want money to trickle upon me. I want it to pour. I want it to flow. I don't want no damn trickle money. I want like people. Americans be ready to settle for nothing and be like, I want.
And Trump is doing this. It's the same logic now. If I cut the taxes for the wealthy, they will take that savings and they will invest that money into the American economy, and that will stimulate growth and jobs.
Hey, how'd that work in the pandemic?
It was a lie. It was a lie in 1980, and it's a lie now. The Democrats aren't calling him on it.
Yeah,
that's just one example. That's just one example.
I'm like, how that people forget what happened during the pandemic whenever they gave that big ass tax credit and tax break, because it was supposed to stimulate the economy, and then the stock market shot up. And at that very moment, I mean, I already knew the stock market was fugazi, but like at that moment, I realized just how fugazi the stock market actually was. I'm like, yo, there's nobody working. Who the hell? How is this? Your stock's rising? Where's your predictions coming from?
They're buying back their own stock.
And then what they buy them back? The stock market crashed. Did those businesses reinvest that money into the employees? No. They waited for the government to give out stimulus. But like, we ain't giving shit. Y'all go talk to them. We keeping this money. We keeping that. Like, okay, so what was all this about? The stimulus and biggest, we're gonna help. Like, no, it was not nothing. It doesn't exist. Trickle down economics does not exist. I mean, if it's they trickling on you, but they pissing on you. That's that trickle you're feeling. They pissing on you and laughing at you like they think they taking a shower. Yeah, they think they taking a shower.
So let me move to this immigration issue, because he's now imposing this the immigration
12-country travel ban. Yeah,
right. The ban, right. And I see this as another self-imposed conflict, similar to the tariff war. The only reason there's a tariff war is because you started it. That's why. Honestly, that's why there's a tariff war, because you started the war. And this immigration ban, for example, they're banning immigrants from Afghanistan, which means the Afghanis that helped the U.S. during the war, they are now not able to come to the country.
They actually made an exception for them.
Oh, in this travel ban?
Because they're trying to make it so that the courts won't overturn it. So they're making very weirdly super specific exceptions like that if they consider them an ally. Okay. Yeah, like or if you claim that you're being religiously persecuted from Iran, you can come. Like, okay, that's kind of like it is from Iran specifically that you can make that claim. Okay. Not all the 12. Yeah, it's basically it's ridiculous. Like, I can just pretend like I'm being religiously persecuted and you still have the same national security threat, right? Like, I also noticed, for just out of curiosity, for people to know as a point of information, for example, they say this is a national security threat. We don't want terrorists coming to the country. They put the Democratic Republic of Congo on the list. They're not on the state-sponsored terrorist watch list. Y'all know that, right? Like, nothing, there's never been like, oh man, there's a bunch of terrorists coming from Congo going across. No, they're not on there, which is like, we've never had terrorist threats from the Republic of Congo, yet they made the list somehow. Or the fact that China is supposed to be this huge, massive threat to the US, right? They're literally trying to make these claims recently that they're trying to import this ideology and that they're becoming a literal terrorist threat. That's what they're saying, guys. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, but I mean, we need that money though. So we can't really put them on the list. Okay. What about Syria? Because Syria is in an ongoing terrorist war. It hasn't stopped. It just different complexion, but it's the same situation. They didn't put them on the list. They were on the list, not anymore. Right? It's just like, where's the logic at? And why is it that everybody that you got to ban got to be black or brown?
There's not a Ukrainian ban. There's not an Estonian ban. Anyway. So
even though Ukraine is a literal, like, they sponsor terrorism, like they bragged about the terrorism they sponsor in the Sahel region, guys. Like, this is a fact.
But who are they operating on behalf of in doing that?
Exactly. NATO, the West, France specifically.
So, another question for you. You live in Brazil.
Yes, I do.
And we know that the largest population of Africans outside of Nigeria live in Brazil. Mm-hmm. Talk about, and you've lived in the United States until you moved to Brazil. So yep. you understand racism, you understand racial dynamics.
Mm-hmm. Born in New York, lived in North Carolina during high school and middle school, and lived in Miami and before moving to Brazil. So like my understanding of racial dynamics is varied. I have a lot of experience because my experience as a black man actually differed greatly between these four places. So one of the reasons I moved to Brazil was because it felt like the thing that was like the catalyst to me even considering it was when I was walking around, I didn't feel like I was being judged for what kind of black man I was, if that makes sense. Yeah. So like if I walk into a room full of like I graduated from UNC. When I walk into a room, if it's a room primarily full of white people or a mixed crowd, they're trying to figure out what kind of black I am. Everybody is. It's just a natural thing, unfortunately, in the US and especially in elite institutions, in elite circles. But what people don't actually consider is that even if I walk into a room full of black people, Wilmer, they're trying to figure out what kind of black I am. Everybody's trying to figure out what kind of black each individual is, unless you grew up with those people. That's a thing. People don't realize that, and you don't even realize that you might be judging in the same way until you leave that environment. And you're in a country that is principally black, and they're accustomed to just seeing black people all the time, except for in rare locations where it's like mostly exclusively Dutch or exclusively like German descent. Because even the Portuguese are mostly at this point mixed with the African and indigenous population. So when I came here and I'm just walking around my neighborhood, for example, I live in a suburban neighborhood called Taquara in Jacarepaguá. And I'm looking at these groups of high schoolers walk around, and it's mixed groups, black and white-ish. And I'm like, okay, I don't know why I feel like that's strange, but I feel like this is strange because it's not like that white Brazilian, quote unquote, is acting black, or that black Brazilian, quote unquote, is acting white. I don't know what that is really in Brazil. Everybody has their own way, but that's usually based off of where you're from, not your race. So I would go out to the club back in the day before I was put on the leash and put in handcuffs and put behind put in solitary confinement by my wife. And I would go to the club and I would see these groups go out together. And I'm looking at my friend like, yo, do you see how mixed this group is? And he was like, bro, because he's American. He's like, I was just thinking the same thing. It's kind of crazy, right? I'm like, dog, the fact that it's crazy to us probably means that it's an American. It's like because we're American. Because like we're a mixed group, but there's a very specific reason why my group was mixed. It's because of like being we grew up in, we went to high school in Fayetteville, which is in North Carolina, which is right by Fort Bragg, and everybody's mixed. Everybody damn near, because of it's military town, right? So it was the first, that when I came here, racism exists because racism exists everywhere, but it is not the primary driving factor behind most people's relationships. And it's very, very refreshing. It does play into politics, not in the way that you would think.
Ask, so let me jump in real quick and ask two things. One, can you give me a little more time?
Yeah, of course.
Great, thank you. And then two, so how does it manifest itself?
So in politics, you see politicians constantly trying to run away from these dynamics. For example, the capital of Brazil used to be Rio, which makes sense. Military ports, regular ship ports, the beach. The problem is that Rio is mostly black. And if your capital is here, and all the people that you are trying to quote unquote help, or the people that you screwed over, also live there, and it's very easy to organize, and everybody knows everybody because that's kind of how it is here. And they can just pull up to your doorstep, and those politicians don't look like you, because almost none of these politicians look like the black people that they're representing, right? And that is very problematic, and it plays into the decisions that they make. It's obvious. In fact, it's such a big deal as far as the lack of representation in politics that Glenn Greenwald's late husband, when David Miranda, when he won, it was massive because he was the first black federal congressman. And he's from Rio, and he was from a favela. So it was like a huge thing. But so the opportunity to be represented, unfortunately, does tend to be influenced somewhat by racial dynamics, but it isn't because of your race necessarily. It's because of the amount of money it takes to get into those circles and the lack of opportunity that you have, because like, I would say like a white person from a favela has damn near an equal chance of failing or success as a black person from that same favela, because it's more about who you know. And a lot of these people who end up becoming super successful and end up in the elite of the elites, they're like family from, like I said, Dutch descendants, recent German, like Giselle, for example, Tom Brady's ex-wife. People don't even think about the fact, like, yeah, she's Brazilian, but y'all don't realize her name is like nothing Brazilian, not even close. She's not that far removed from Germany. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think she still speaks German. There are a lot of Brazilians like that. And those people end up being cops. And in Brazil, if you want to be a politician, you have to be a lawyer or a cop. And it's mostly cops. at some point you are a cop, and the majority of Black Brazilians will not do that. They're not going to be, at least they're not going to climb through the ranks of the police force in a way that would be advantageous politically for them. So they would try to call them out, actually. Unfortunately, that happens, and they do get killed for it. I don't want anybody to get confused. It is the same way that happens in the U.S. But being poor is the biggest way to, is the most popular way to be discriminated against in Brazil.
Explain the favela.
A favela is like the hood, basically. Like a hood, like if you were like living in Compton, but they're in spots all over the place. Mm-hmm. So like even in like my nice neighborhood, like maybe a block down is a favela.
And in terms of the voting dynamic, voter turnout, one of the things you keep hearing in the United States is, every voting cycle, we've got the NAACP and all the other we've got to focus on Black voter turnout. Is that an issue in Brazil?
No, because you have to vote. If you're a Brazilian citizen, you have to vote, and if you don't vote, you actually have to submit officially a reason why. You have to like go out of your way to drive to this location, the Polícia Federal, to tell them why you didn't vote. So like, no, you got to vote. And if you don't do that, you have to pay a tax, and you can get it's a problem. Like you have to vote. So you don't have to reach out to the Black voters to, at least not to turn out. But the unfortunate reality is some Black voters aren't aware enough until recently. Recently, they've become a lot more active and a lot more aware because of social media. Because social media is relatively new in Brazil. Okay. People don't really realize that. Yeah, I'm gonna put it like this. So my wife is from what we would call the country, not country with a C, country with a K, like from that type of country. Like when she said she worked on a farm growing up, I thought she meant her and her family worked at a farm. No, what she literally meant was that they grow their own food, and that's how they ate. They grew their own animals. That's how that's what she meant. I was like, oh, you were, yes, like she country. Didn't know that. So she was explaining to me that she'll watch something on TikTok or Instagram, and she won't understand the slang or the way that they pronounce certain words. I'm like, what? It's Portuguese. It's like, oh, no. There are people from this area that won't understand anybody from this area because they have not had any contact with each other. Why would they? In the place that she lived, where it's so country, they would not be traveling to this other place that might be like in maybe it's a beach city, but it's like a indigenous beach city somewhere off in the cut somewhere. The only way that we would meet each other is if we both were visiting Rio, or we were both visiting São Paulo, or both visiting or living in Salvador, Bahia. Because that's where like the tourist areas are and where the businesses and stuff like that. I was like, okay, but she was like, yeah, and we didn't really start getting like my dad didn't get internet until 4 years ago. I was like, oh shit. She's like, yeah, we didn't have cell phone service. She didn't watch TV for the first time until she moved to Rio at 17. So that's like how disconnected everybody was for a very long time. And so now everyone is kind of playing catch up, which is why politicians have stopped making promises, because that channel is called Global Play, where most people get their news from. Like everybody is getting access to it now, not just on your TV, but on your cell phone. They're seeing clips. People are pulling up receipts, et cetera, et cetera. Actually, Glenn Greenwald is kind of pivotal in the way that Brazilians have become locked in to information, because at a time where journalists were taking advantage of the fact that that Brazilians did not have the ability to connect the same way Americans do via social media, Glenn Greenwald was using the intercept to bring truth to light to everybody who could pay attention, right? So like that's how like I make a joke about it, but it's the truth. Like my barber knows who Glenn Greenwald is. Mm-hmm. Like he asked me, like he's like, you're a journalist from America? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you know Glenn Greenwald? I was like, what, brother? Yeah, that's my dog, but like that's crazy. He's like, oh, bro, that's the only guy I listen to. That's the only guy I watch. That's the only, back in the day, the Intercept, he stopped reading the Intercept when Glenn Greenwald left. So like, but because he understands how important it is and understands the dynamic of how information flows here. So they're catching up. They're starting to pay more attention than they used to in the past. And it's not because they didn't want to in the past. It's because they literally didn't have a way to. But it's starting to, like I said, they used to make promises. They ain't really making a lot of promises anymore. They're trying to keep it. They're in that phase where the U.S. was, where everybody's trying to keep it super general and just attack the other party.
Air conditioning on buses was a big deal. Hey,
bro, I'm trying to tell you, Wilmer, I'm not, I always joke with my wife. She's like, yeah, that air conditioner won him the election. And she said, and it's going to win, and it's going to win again. And you ask anybody about that, yeah, man, why do you think he won? Oh, bro, it's AC, for sure. I'm like, what about this and that and this and that? No, it was the AC. It was definitely the AC. And whenever elections come around, here's what's interesting. My wife always knows when elections are coming around because you'll start to see parks get put up. Places start getting cleaned up.
People, okay.
Yeah, schools start getting put up. The books start looking a little bit new. They actually start doing work for the people to get reelected because they know you ain't got no choice but to vote. So damn, well, since I gotta go there anyway, let me go ahead and see what's being done in my neighborhood. Because you're gonna pass like all the things in your neighborhood that it would be like a city councilman. Basically, what they can help, you're gonna pass all of that on at some point during the week. You're going to see if they put a new park in there. You're going to see if they clean that area up. You're going to see if they put the fence up or put a light up in that dark area by the train where it's really dangerous. Like, you're going to see everything they did and didn't do. And they know it. And everybody on WhatsApp going to be gossiping about it. Hey, man, we can't. Didn't he say he's going to do this? Y'all remember that? Then they start. I'm trying to tell you, you think news get passed fast on X? Ain't no news getting passed faster than a group chat in Brazil on WhatsApp. I promise you. Everybody, that's how I go buy something, Wilmer. And I bought a shirt the other day. This man texted my personal number. Hey, man, how you like the shirt? I said, who is this? He said, hey, it's the guy from da-da-da. I'm like, dog, I gave you my number so that I could like get some reward points. I didn't think that you was going to actually text me to check on the status of my shirt that I But that's how word of mouth is how everything moves.
Politics is local.
Yeah. So, but the dynamics, I will say, whenever, in my experience so far living in Brazil, when I have a black family or friend who visits Brazil for the first time, it's like they become addicted to it because I don't know if Brazil is Brazil. I don't know how to explain the energy here. It's wonderful, but they really get addicted to the feeling of not having to be conscious of their blackness all the time, or even having your blackness as an American celebrated, because they're like black people here. They're very, very prideful. But when you are a black American, you are considered a celebrity here. They don't care if you the garbage man or if you're A$AP Rocky or Rihanna. Like because they're hip hop. Like, yeah, we learned this from you guys, or we got this style of dress from you guys, or I want to play basketball now because we watched you guys play basketball, and like that's why Brazil's team is getting so good. Like, I'm watching the Brazilian basketball program develop in front of my eyes, like, because they love basketball so much because of black Americans. They're watching like the old Michael Jordan. It's like they appreciate it. And like the most famous singer in Brazil is black, and his name is Seu Jorge. Actually, if you've ever seen the movie City of God, he's in that movie, and he's a producer for the movie too. So, but he's the most popular singer, and he gets the credit. That's the difference. They don't get to steal his style and pretend that he wasn't the one who invented it or the one who popularized the songs, or he gets all of the damn credit, like everything that he deserves. The commercials full of black people and white Brazilians, but like full of black people. And I'm like, every time I pass a sign or an ad, and my wife looking at me like, why are you so surprised? I'm like, because that's not how it works in the US. We're allowed to promote tennis shoes for Gucci or something like that. Like, something that we can't really afford. We're allowed to promote alcohol, cigarettes, things like that. But not like, we're not being made the face of products that aren't considered to be stereotypically used by black people. And that's the difference. Like, you don't have to be conscious of being black. You just be you. And it's a very relieving feeling. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's dope. It's dope.
So one more question about this, and then I got a couple here that I want to get to, because you were you were talking about the racial dynamics in politics, and that in order to be a politician, you have to either have been a police officer or been an attorney. And if I understood what you were saying, most of those people are white or incredibly fair-skinned. Yes,
absolutely, 100%.
Okay, so there is it. Is their phenotype contributing to their success, or could someone my skin color, and I don't know, depending on where you're from, how I would fall on the spectrum, but someone your skin color, someone my skin color, be elected to the Senate in Brazil?
So
does that make sense?
Say I became as fluent in Portuguese, I speak fluently, but like as eloquently fluent in Portuguese politically, and I could do it.
Okay, why?
Because of I have a network that is not limited to circumstances I grew up in. Because, your network a lot of times in Brazil is limited to the network that your parents created for you. If your parents didn't have that but when you are white, because of the ones who came here, when you traveled here, you didn't come without a bag under most circumstances.
Okay.
You have money stacked up. You have family. There's a lot of the Dutch and a lot of the Germans and the Chinese and Koreans even. They have family with money outside the country.
Okay.
And that is worth more. So that unfortunately, like I said, the reality is, and I can confirm this being that I've lived in multiple countries at this point, the majority of human relationships in some capacity is transactional. And that's just the reality of the situation.
Right.
Being black, kid, it impedes you from being successful because depending on where you lived at. And sometimes there are black people who have convinced themselves already that they're going to lose because they've already seen, well, all these politicians are white and also they were all cops. I'm not about to be a cop. I'm not doing it. Like, they will not do it. Because if they're from a favela, right? And there are people who choose to live in they will buy a nice place and do how do you say when you reform your house? I guess it's reformate. I'm thinking of the word renovate. There you go, renovate. They'll renovate their house, everything, and choose to stay in that favela. And if they choose to be a cop, it's a problem, right? Like, so now I can't take that path, which means I know I can't be a politician because the cops are going to get on this person's side, or the cops are gonna mess with you. Like, if you're running against a guy who used to be top cop in your city, your state, your area, and you weren't a cop, that person they're going to get the cops to mess with you. It's not a joke.
Okay.
Like they be doing raids and they show up with look at all the guns we found. It's like, bro, them guns look brand damn new. You sure you ain't get them out the locker? Talking about, look at all the guns we found. It's operation. But yeah, so there is a correlation, I can say, because black people are still playing catch up. What Brazil is very unique in slavery, how long slavery lasted here, to the degree slavery infected society. So there is like that long lasting impact that they're still trying to recover from. And that's largely, unfortunately, due to the United States. But I will say that black people overall have opportunity that isn't solely reliant on their skin tone and would not be solely impeded by their skin tone in the ways, for example, like that will happen in the U.S. Like,
so is it too simplistic for me to say then that the vestiges of slavery in Brazil are impacting upward mobility, but it's more because of the economics of the vestiges than the racism?
No, that's not simplistic at all. I feel like that's a very astute analysis, and it's really affecting when we talk about the upward mobility. It's like the up, like not like you can get to that middle class. You go and if you can work very hard to get to that upper middle class. I know some because they have scholarships to really nice schools, bilingual schools. Like they're like You can, like in Brazil, they say "dá um jeito," like you can make a way to get to that middle class, to upper middle class. But when you're talking about cracking that code to get to the elite, now the economics come into play, because I gotta know somebody at the bank to get this loan. I gotta know somebody at to buy a house. Like it gets complicated, and you need money. And even if you have the money, sometimes you need to know somebody, and you know how that goes. So
Daniel,
there is an education gap. There is that.
Got it. So, okay. Daniel Drazenovich, thank you very much for that super sticker. Greatly appreciated. And Cam 35, what's your expectation for the upcoming BRICS meeting?
Man, I don't even drama. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, right? Like, because with the situation going down with Russia and Ukraine, India is, I don't know what's going on with Modi. That man lost his mind. I don't know. He's basically just doing whatever the U.S. has told him. Lula, don't ask me what he's been thinking. I mean, I just watched this guy, like a coward, honestly, block Venezuela from becoming part of BRICS, and he didn't even go himself. He sent an envoy to do it for him. So I can't tell you. I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, you talk about Modi, and are you talking about the attacks on Christians? Or are you talking about just Modi across the board?
I mean, across the board recently. Okay. Attacking Pakistan the way he did, after like blaming Pakistan for a terrorist attack that happened again. Like, and Pakistan denied it, and India never provided proof. And he was like, "Yeah, but we're gonna attack y'all anyway, bro." Like, what? Like, what's going on? So it's I feel like there's probably going to be some sit down between Putin and Xi Jinping. They're gonna have a sit down with a lot of countries, and it might be a belt involved. It might be some spankings involved. Like, y'all, because if this coalition that makes up 70%, when they actually are working together, they make up 70% of the world's economy. If it's going to work, we need to work together and stop letting them pick us off one by one. I guess since we were on the subject of black people, that is how black people have been picked off in the US. They individualize us. They separate us. They tell us we don't need one another. They bribe us, right? And sell our people out at the most convenient moment for them, right? When it matters the most. When we got our first black president, we got slavery back in Libya. Right? Situations like that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a conversation that's going to be had at BRICS, is like, yo, do y'all want this or not? Basically. Because we look at what's going on, bro. We are, after what happened with that Ukraine situation, like, don't be a fool, guys. That Operation Spider Web, which was the only way I can describe it, was a terrorist attack. That's the only thing because when you literally using trucks to fly drones across, or to carry drones across the border, and you fly those drones from another place to bomb another, like, bro, that's a terror. Like, if that happened in Gaza, or happened in Tel Aviv from Gaza, they would call that a terrorist attack. I'm just saying. So it was. Mm-hmm. But it was planned a year in advance.
Right.
It happened the day before the peace talks that were scheduled to take place. And we know that Ukraine uses whose satellites and whose intelligence to conduct these missions?
Which is when you, particularly when you look at the Russian aircraft that was attacked, those aircraft are part of the Russian nuclear arsenal.
Yes.
And folks need to go back and remember that Russia modified its nuclear response doctrine to say, if our country is attacked by a non-nuclear entity, but that non-nuclear entity was basically shilling for a nuclear entity, we consider that to be a violation. So they were basically saying to Ukraine, if you act as the proxy for the United States to attack part of our nuclear triad, we will consider that to be a nuclear attack, and we will respond accordingly. So what all of this hype about the U.S. So the START treaty is what is at play here, or is it the SALT treaty? The SALT treaty is what's at play, is what is being factored into all of this now. And Russia saying to the United States, that's why they had to respond in the manner in which they did yesterday or earlier today.
Mm-hmm. Which they should consider themselves lucky, to be completely honest.
Oh, because there were generals going to Putin saying, dude, you can't sit and let this go by. You have to respond, and you have to respond forcefully. And Putin saying, we're going to respond, but we don't want to play into the trap they're trying to bait us into. And this is what folks don't understand.
Yeah, Putin is not an emotional bro. That's a calculating dude.
Right.
He's like, I'm not gonna let him pump me. Don't get it twisted. But I can't fall into the. I mean, this is the president of you can tell this is the president that understands what it means for the people of his country to be at war. He hears he's not far removed from those stories from people who participated in that war. Those stories he heard. You exactly. You see what I'm saying? Like, once you hear those stories, once you read about and he's a student of the game. Like, this dude, he's a very astute individual. He's a student of history, and he's a military scholar. Like, I mean, not literally, but like based off of his strategy and the way that he goes about it, he's like, bro, they want to give an excuse to hurt my people. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to give it to them. I'm a show strength. I'm gonna continue to project strength, and I'm gonna remind him what time it is. But he will not, and I get it. I respect him for it. He's like, when it happens, and unfortunately, there is because of what you just said, like, because that they basically could have sparked off the nuclear war right then and there. It's like that was their intention. That's what it seems like, because Starmer turned around the next day. Hey man, yeah, we just gave like $15 billion more for to our military budget. Why? Oh, to prep for war for Russia. Damn, that's really weird how quick y'all passed that, considering this just happened fucking yesterday. Like, and you prepping for this war like you already knew it was going to happen. Interesting that, huh? Like, that specific thing was going to happen? Exactly, because you knew. They're like, ooh, this is going to be it. We're going to purposely help them violate their treaty to spark off a nuclear war, spark off World War III, or spark off a full-scale invasion of another Western European nation. They want it. Like, you got to remember, Western Europe, they don't give a damn if a bunch of innocent people get caught in the crossfire of this war. They already proved that. Like England, people got to remember, who helped rebuild Hitler's navy? That was Great Britain. Which is crazy considering the Royal Navy is now nothing, right? Like, and they were like, they helped rebuild. They knew that what the outcome was going to be, and they still put the lives of British people at risk anyway. They don't care. Putin does. And he's like, if the people of my country are going to suffer, it will not be because I pulled the trigger first. And I respect it, because we need more leaders like that who project strength, but also are still thinking within the best interest of that family who's just trying to go on about their day-to-day lives in peace.
Xi Jinping is operating that same way relative to Taiwan. And folks, if you go back to the guy that was assassinated in at the funeral in Iran,
not Soleimani. Oh, the other guy. I know you're talking about.
Sinwar, might have been Sinwar, who was assassinated and what did Iran do? Iran told Joe Biden, here are the targets we're going to hit in Israel. We're going to hit the targets that were used to facilitate the attack. We are not going to hit civilian targets. We're going to hit military targets. And Joe Biden said, oh, no, please don't respond. Please don't respond. And Iran said, oh, no, we have to respond. We're going to respond. But here are the targets we're going to hit, and they're all going to be military. And Joe Biden said, well, okay, if that's what you're going to do. And then Iran said, and then I'll let you go on this. Iran said, once we do this, we will consider the matter closed. But if you respond to us, you're going to leave us. No, folks don't understand whether it's Khomeini in Iran, whether it's Xi Jinping in China. They don't want this fight. Mm-hmm. They really don't want this fight. But the West won't leave them alone.
Yep. You know what also they don't understand? As a person, I would just say back in the day, I didn't look for fights. But, you know, being from Fayetteville, sometimes you got to get down with the get down. And the circumstances is what it is, so it was what it was. I didn't like to start fights. Now, I've been in plenty of them. But you know why I didn't like to start fights? Because at the end of the day, everybody gonna be looking at me crazy when you left bloody on the ground. I don't need to flex my muscles at you because I already know the outcome. Russia doesn't need to flex. Iran doesn't need to flex. China definitely doesn't need to flex. They don't need to flex and do these little, like, basically throw hissy fits like Israel does, right? Like Ukraine does, like these terrorist organizations do on behalf of NATO. Because we know what we're capable of, but we unfortunately, but somebody's going to get hurt. That's like, and I don't want it. I'm trying to tell you, we don't have to do this. We can just talk.
They also know the impact that war has on their economies.
Exactly, and who knows? It could benefit
in Iran. Their economies are doing well.
Exactly. So you don't. It's unpredictable
on their economies.
Yeah. Well, it could go either way. It could be a dread, or it could be, but they don't want to take that chance. Like, you don't want your economy to be reliant on the war,
right?
Because then that creates other problems that you as a politician have to deal with.
Now
and they know that they're not
crazy at you.
Exactly. So it's like they don't want like, but don't confuse I don't want to with I can't. People be confusing that. I'm like, Iran is with the shits, y'all. Y'all forgot the only time that like in my lifetime that I can remember where we were like, hey man, so like we don't like Iran, but hey. Saddam, please, can you take care of that for us, please? Because we don't really know what Guess what happened? Hey, y'all gonna deal with that problem. I don't even know why y'all sent me over there. This ain't had nothing to do with me. and they never tried to invade Iran again.
Nope.
Because something happened in that moment where they realized we actually are not prepared to fight them. We thought we were, and we're not. Nothing has changed. The only thing that has happened since then from now is that Iran has gotten better, more powerful, and more efficient. And they know their intention, and they know the U.S. intention. Like, there's nothing's changed except for that we stand a greater chance of losing that war, and everything stands a greater chance of escalating. That's the only thing that's changed. We will still lose. It'll just be with more casualties, and nobody wants that except for the West. Nobody wants it, or at least they don't care. They don't care about it. The West doesn't care about it. That's the problem. Like, the other side doesn't want it, and they're actively trying to prevent it. And it seems like the West is dead set on like, we don't care how many people gotta die. We don't care if it's our own people that gotta die. We will literally bomb a random area with a bunch of privates in Yemen or Syria and use that as an excuse to bomb y'all. We don't care. Like, that's basically what they're telling us all the time. And I don't understand how you can believe anything that government, whatever that may be, UK, the US, whoever, whenever a government talks and acts in that way, where they make it very clear that they don't care who from their country has to die for them to get their way when it comes to international policy, why would you trust anything that government has to say to you about another country?
And
they don't even care about you.
And as we get out, when was the last time the United States won a war?
Well, as Cat Williams, don't worry, I'll wait.
Brother Niko House, man, thank you. Greatly appreciate it as always, and look forward to having you back.
Always, man. Appreciate you. Had a good time.
Thanks, bro. Hey, folks, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, connecting the dots. Really need you all to join the Connecting the Dots Club, to subscribe through the YouTube channel. Greatly appreciated, greatly needed. Remember, we're doing this for you, but we can't do this without you. All the links to the social media are below. See y'all on Monday. Greg Palast will join us on Monday. We were able to work through the technical problems that we had with him yesterday, and he will join us on Monday. And remember that this is where the analysis of politics, culture, and history converge. Talk without analysis is just chatter, and we don't chatter here on Connecting the Dots. Why? Because it is rhetoric-free podcasting. See y'all on Monday. Until then, I am Dr. Wilmer Leon. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Peace. I'm out.
Connecting the Dots with Dr. Wilmer Leon, where the analysis of politics, culture, and history converge.